Welcome everybody, Chef Katie May here. We are live for another episode of Delicious Living in my kitchen. We are making a really tasty treat today, sugar-free, gluten-free as well, for the holidays. It's Halloween in a couple weeks. Want to start giving you, it's weeks away, but want to get you thinking about sugar-free treats, how to eat healthfully through the holidays starting now. So here's my setup. Let me know if you can hear me. We are live for all of our Delicious Living members. This is now a private show, and we open it up to True North patients as well. So welcome. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. We have, just gonna see if I can get a little bit closer up. The link to the recipe is in the description. So if you haven't gotten that recipe yet, check out that. It's a PDF, you can download it. And I show you our recipe here. We have it. This is what we're making. So our orange candied sweet potato casserole. You guys had, for some reason this has been, when I show this recipe it blinks. So, but that's the recipe. You can get it in the description, the link to it there. So hello everyone. Let us know if you're joining us from True North. If anyone is there, if you're doing a water fast. Is that, so my head's a little cut off. I like it closer up. Let me just move that. See if that's a little better. A little better. So we have, this dish is so tasty. If you're familiar with Thanksgiving, you're in the US, you've probably had or at least heard about sweet potato casserole. Often it's made with like marshmallows on top. It's a very sweet dish. On top of the sweetness from the sweet potatoes, there's usually sugar added, brown sugar. Maybe if it's in a highly processed form, you might even have agave or a cane syrup in there. But we can make this a version of this that is super nourishing, nutritious, and healing for our bodies. So that's what we're going to do today. It takes a little bit of time in the oven. So I'm gonna hop into preparing it. We're gonna get it in the oven. And then I wanna share a little bit more about my story with sugar, my love for sugar, and my recovery from sugar addiction, basically. And a few tips for getting out of or kind of avoiding the pleasure trap, depending on where you are during the holiday times. So to start with, we have our, like I said, the recipe's in the description. So if you don't have the recipe, you can just find it there below this video. And I'm gonna follow along my recipe because otherwise I can easily just go at it and prepare something with a totally different directions, basically, and that would be confusing. So our recipe starts with the potatoes, sweet potatoes. 1.5 pounds is about 2 sweet potatoes, but it really depends on the size. So I'm just going to cut these up, and if we don't need to use them all, I'll have extra sweet potato for another time. I've peeled the sweet potato. You can use any color sweet potato, but I like the orange color. I'm just cutting off the ends there. I'll do this one too. Oh, I already got that one. Now we want to have let's push this aside, our sweet potatoes in little diced squares. Okay, so when you have an odd shape like this, I suggest cutting it so you have kind of some pieces that are a little more even. And then I'm going to cut this in strip, like slabs. So then we can cut this lengthwise turn it and cut them into diced pieces, right? So we want to end up with cubes. The shape of the sweet potato doesn't make this very easy, and it's pretty impossible to get exact cubes because you end up with a lot of like funky shapes. But we want them to be small, bite size, and consistent size. Consistency is key here, so everything cooks evenly. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. And again, I'm gonna cut these a little bit differently depending on the size of your sweet potato. Grab this. My cubes are about 1/2 inch, going to be about 1/2 inch wide. I go this way. So this dish, like I said, you can use any type of sweet potato, but if you want to do a mixture, that would be fun too, like a mixture of purple and orange. Purple is kind of like a Halloween color. Often you see purple and orange and black together. Purple sweet potatoes are extra nutritious as well, all those antioxidants. So we have some people not liking sweet potato. If you really wanted to, you could do this with a white potato. I know my father's one of them. He's not a sweet potato fan, but sweet potatoes make it so much better, and they pair really well with the orange and ginger and cinnamon flavor we're going to be adding. Okay, so chop these up. And I mentioned we're going to talk about how to avoid the pleasure trap, but I want to mention also talk about flavor a little bit. Now we're not going to get into specifics with the different tastes. I love talking about the different tastes we have and how to develop those tastes, but I want to talk about some pieces regarding flavor that we don't often think about. I have a term, kind of a concept that's called the flavor success formula. And the flavor success formula has 4 pieces, and only one involves being in the kitchen and actually making the flavor. So I'm going to add all of my sweet potatoes here to our casserole pan. The other components of the flavor success formula, the second one, is resetting your taste buds. So when you're at True North Health Center, if anyone is there, you're getting a chance to reset your taste buds either by doing the water fast or by eating a really clean diet with no added sugar, oil, salt, no animal products, no processed foods. It's all very, very whole food, and you're getting to enjoy the flavor of the natural foods. So you're resetting your taste buds. That makes the food more flavorful. Okay? So set that aside. We've got a full casserole pan there, which is perfect with those 2 large sweet potatoes. And you can leave the peel on the sweet potato if you'd like to do that. Definitely, it's nutritious. I would only do that though if you get organic. If you get a non-organic sweet potato, it's going to have pesticides and chemicals in the skin that we don't want. So then it would be a good idea to peel. But otherwise, yes, go ahead and leave the peel on. If you've been doing the plant-based diet for a long time, you probably enjoy the peel actually. It's got a nice flavor, but it's kind of earthy. And so if you're serving this to guests who are not as healthy of an eater as yourself, or kids who are a little bit more picky, you might want to I would suggest removing the skin so you don't have as much earthiness and you have a little bit more sweetness concentrated from the sweet potato. So next up we have a little blender here. This is the Personal Tri-Best blender. It's really nice, easy to travel with if you travel a lot. And we have a 16 ounce, and they make a smaller one, 8 ounce container that goes in here. So we're just going to fill this up with our ingredients that we want to blend up. And that is our oranges. we're going to actually add the whole orange. So I'm going to peel this guy. We'll just cut off the ends. This is an easier way to peel instead of just using your fingers. And it also allows you to take a little bit more of the membrane out for the same reason. The membrane or the white part is nutritious, but it is more bitter. And so having a little less of that makes this a more palatable dish. Not palatable, but like just even sweeter, right? Because we're not using sugar the way that most people would expect. So it's not going to be as sweet as the way most people would expect a sweet potato casserole to taste. So doing little things like this will help your guest enjoy it if you're serving this to others. The other pieces of the flavor success formula. The third piece is resetting your gut or reseeding your gut microbiome. So what is those little bugs in your gut are doing? They're creating cravings. Many things. They're doing a lot of great things, but they're also telling your body what you want to eat because they want to eat. They need food, and so they let your brain know they're hungry and what they would like you to consume. And if you've got healthy microbiome that has been eating a plant-based diet, lots of whole foods, then that's what your brain is going to be signaled to consume more of. But if you've been having sugar and junk food, then it's going to be telling your brain, give me more sugar, right? So you got to reset your gut microbiome, and then you won't have the cravings as much. And when you don't have those cravings, then you can enjoy the whole natural flavors of food more so. So we have got our oranges packed in here. We're going to get all the fiber from this orange because I didn't juice it ahead of time. We're just putting in all of the orange there. So that's great. The next thing we're going to add is a little bit of ginger. And I don't have any fresh ginger. I'm kind of in a new city. I'm still getting to know what I can expect at the grocery store. And ginger wasn't there. So we're just going to do a little bit of ground up dried ginger. And I'm doing about half a teaspoon. I think I'm going to do a little bit more. We're going to do like a teaspoon. I think the 2 inches of fresh ginger might be a lot for some people. So if you're not a huge ginger fan, then cut back. Don't do quite as much, okay? It's up to you though. Then we also have a little bit of almond butter here. We're going to do a tablespoon of the almond butter. And this is almond butter. It's straight almonds, no added oil, sugar, salt. So if you can get a very clean almond butter, that's what you want. I don't recommend eating almond butter or peanut butter, any nut butter, any other way. Definitely not with oil or sugar added. Occasionally, you might not be able to find one without salt added, but definitely see what you can do. You can also make the almond butter at home really easily in the food processor. You just need a lot of almonds, but that can be done. So we have, the last item is cinnamon. A little bit of cinnamon here. We're going to do 1 teaspoon. Okay, right in our blender, we can get this going. So, again, personal Tri-Best blender, super convenient, easy. So, got it. Okay, so we have the, it smells so good already. It actually smells kind of like Christmas morning. It smells really good. Definitely like the holidays. So we're gonna pour this over our sweet potatoes. Yeah, I'm gonna wait to pour it over. We'll do that in a minute. First, I wanna make our topping, okay? So we have, let's close this up. We're gonna make a crumble for the top of our casserole here. It's gonna go into our food processor. And it's really simple. We're gonna start with dates, pecans, and oats. I'm actually gonna leave out the oats today. I'll add them. I'm allergic to oats right now. My body's not liking them. So my symptom, I just get sleepy, super sleepy. So I'm gonna add, this is actually a small amount. We're not gonna do a large amount here. So let me see if I have my smaller container. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So food processors come in all different sizes, shapes and sizes. So we have this large one here, 14, I think it's a 14 cup. And this would be for, you know, if you're doing veggie burgers or something where you need a larger volume. Right now, we're not making a big amount. And so I want to put in this small little one inside here. And there's this piece that goes inside it. And food processors are like a puzzle, putting it all together. Can you see? Oh, you can't see mine. I thought you could. Got a shot of it. Here, let me switch camera views. So you see the processor there. Okay. We have this little container. You didn't see me put it in, but in there. Then we're going to add 3/4 cup of pecans. A little more. I'm going to add 6 dates, pitted dates. I recommend breaking them apart in half as you put them in, just to get that, help it process a little bit quicker without over processing the nuts. And 4. If you want to, you can use other things. Question about if you wanted to do something instead of almond butter, you could do like a sesame, not sesame, that would not be good. Tahini is not a good option, but sunflower seed butter would be great. Sunflower seeds, hopefully you don't have an allergy to them, and that would be a great option. If you have an allergy or don't want to do any seeds, you could do coconut. That would be an excellent, a little bit of fat, so it's a great replacement, and it would be really well fitting with the other flavors, the cinnamon and ginger and sweet potato. So that's a great option, is coconut. This is a dessert, so I wouldn't try to do no fat whatsoever unless you are really adamant about that. Personally, I think a little bit of fat in the diet is really helpful, nourishing, and so we're having this as a dessert, so we're not having too much. But if you wanted to, you could leave the fat out completely. You could just do the orange juice and the cinnamon spices and no fat, okay? Tahini is not a good option because it is very bitter. Unless you had a lot of orange or you were really loving that tahini flavor, like it's in hummus. Hummus is cut though generally with oil and the garbanzo beans, but on its own tahini is pretty bitter and it's not going to be as fitting for dessert. But if you have a preference for tahini, you can do that. I'm just going to grab my oats really quick. Oats. Oh, I hid them from myself. I just put them out of sight because I don't use them. But this dish is going to go to my family, so I won't be having these. But we're going to do 1/4 cup of the oats. Let's see if I have. So it's not much. If you wanted to leave these oats out too, you can do that. Just do the nuts and dates. Okay, in we go. Put our lid on. Oh, can't snap it. There we go. Oh, gotta turn to plug it in. Yeah. So, oh yeah. So I'm missing the little piece that goes inside here on the top. Actually, see if my juicer piece will help a little bit. Do that. All right, the main thing you wanted to get crumbled, the one that takes a little bit longer, is the dates. So we've got it looking pretty good. Pull it out here. It's just a weird angle, the food processor. I wanted you to be able to see it, and it's there we go. Okay, so this is our filling, or topping I should say. Just crumble that on top. All right. Let's switch cameras back. Do you have to soak the dates? You don't have to soak them ahead of time, and it might make it too moist if you soak them, but you can if you want to. There's no need. So we have the crumble, but first we now want to put our sauce on here. We'll pour this on. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to this container and get the rest of all of that flavor out of there. We'll use a little spatula as well. Okay. Great flavor, you don't want to miss any of that. And then we're going to stir this up. So we have all of the sweet potatoes covered, right? That little bit of extra moisture will help to cook the potatoes too. Yum, this smells so good, you guys. This is gonna be tasty. All right, this could be made ahead of time. This, this could be a breakfast, like on a, whether it's Halloween or Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah. Really would be fitting for any holiday that we're coming up to. And you can make it ahead of time, the night before. I would save the crumble until just before you put it in the oven, but all of this can be done ahead of time. Okay? And then we'll sprinkle our crumble here on top. And I usually make this in a larger dish, a big circle, so I think that's why I had more of this crumble. If you have a smaller container and you pile the sweet potato a little bit higher, you might not need all of the crumble. So keep that in mind as you're preparing. Yum. And if you want to do any other fruit here, if you want to do raisins or figs instead of or in addition, to kind of a combo with the dates, you can definitely do that. Oh, this looks so good. It's going to be tasty. And I'm kind of piling on the crumble here. Okay, so easy to make, right? That was quick. What did it take us? About 20 minutes, and then that was me talking. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and then I'll answer your questions. Let's get it going. So ideally that would go about 40 minutes in the oven, depending on your preferences for crispness, you know, how much you want it cooked. But you need to make sure that the sweet potatoes are fully tender. That's what you need to check. Okay. So Julie, I said I wouldn't be eating this. Instead, today I'm actually going to be making the dish that I'm making tomorrow. On tomorrow's class, we're going to have ramen, a veggie loaded ramen, which is going to be so delicious. But during the holidays, I would, if I was making this dish for everyone else, I would actually make it for myself as well, just without the oats. So I could even, and not any, the oats aren't necessary. So depending on if I wanted to make one or two dishes, I could just leave the oats off of the one that I was going to have. Does that make sense? So I would definitely still be having this because it is so tasty. I just wouldn't have the oats. But there are so many options out there as far as what you can do during the holidays and stay plant strong. And you do not need to have any white sugar, any added oils, or even the salt. The salt is something that stimulates our appetite, so makes us want to eat more. So if we're having rich foods, especially processed foods, we do not want to have the salt. But if you're having a very wholesome plant-based meal or dessert, a little bit of salt is not going to be the end of the world, but I would avoid it with the dessert because you already have so much, you know, with desserts generally, that's where you have the sweetness and the richness, the fattiness, and you don't need the salt to enjoy it, right? Where the place where the salt could be helpful, depending on where you are in your journey, is on vegetables, just steamed vegetables. But if you're lucky enough to have a very sensitive palate, you don't even need salt there because the vegetables have so much flavor on their own. So, but my biggest concern, my concern is not the salt as much as the sugar, the flour as well as sugar, and the oil, because those things, they create so much disease in the body and they send us off plan into the wild west basically, and it's so difficult to get back. It can be done, of course, and the sooner you can get back on track, the sooner you can resume your amazing plant-based lifestyle, the better. But those pieces I talked about for the flavor success formula, I mentioned the flavor, which is learning how to develop all of the cuisine basically so that it has a lot of flavor, but then also resetting your taste buds, reseeding your microbiome. And the fourth one is creating bright lines. Bright lines are unambiguous lines that you do not cross. So they're basically a way to think about your identity, what you do, what you don't do. For me, I don't say that I can't eat animal products. I can't eat animal products is saying someone else is putting that restriction on me and I'm not allowed to. It's like a no. I'm not allowed to do that. And I am feeling like there's a disconnect between what I want to do and what I'm not able to do, what I'm not allowed to do, versus saying I don't eat animal products. It's part of my identity. It becomes fully me, coming from within rather than an external limitation, an external restriction. So I don't eat animal products. I don't eat processed sugar. I don't cook with oils. You know, these are things that are part of my identity, and I'm very clear, and there's just no question about it. So that's the sort of thing we need, those four pieces, to have amazing flavor within your life, and specifically a whole food plant-based cuisine. So I want you guys to think about that, especially if you're at True North right now, when you're going back into reality, back home, and starting to prepare your own foods. Think about those four pieces that are needed to really enjoy yourself. Oh, see, I missed it. I told you I didn't read my recipe. Peter points out that the crumble should be added near the end because it'll burn. It'll start to get crispy. So what I'm going to do is actually put a foil on top of it. Yeah, and it already says to put foil on top of it. But the crumble will be fine as long as I put the foil on. Okay, so let's do that. Just get to talking, and then next thing you know, not following the recipe. So what I suggest everyone do when you're reading recipes at home, following recipes, is to read the entire recipe before starting. Read the full recipe. And read the full recipe, the ingredient list, before you even get into the kitchen. So you don't end up with getting to work before you actually have all the ingredients. Let's pull this out. Okay. So just gonna put this down here. I'm not a big fan of using foil in general. The aluminum, it's a little bit hard to dance so hot. There we go. In we go. Okay. So, I mentioned those pieces for the flavor success formula. That's how you can enjoy the flavor of your whole plant foods all season long. But there's another piece to, some different things that will help with avoiding the pleasure trap to help you stay on that course. And these will work hand in hand, the flavor success formula and these other behaviors that you can do. Before I share those, I just want to share a little bit of my journey with sugar, because I look healthy, but I've been about this size. I've been the same size for most of my life, maybe 15 pounds heavier, but I was never significantly overweight. Okay, so when I came to True North, started at teaching at True North Health Center 10 years ago, I was about the same size, but I was newly, not even recovered, I was newly on the journey of giving up sugar, of giving up sweets. And it took a lot. I didn't have any sugar in my home, in addition to no oil or salt in my home, so that it was a very clean, pristine environment inside my home. And that allowed me to prepare these meals and adopt a whole food plant-based diet fairly easily. But the trick was, the challenge and temptation was going outside the home. I would have, when I first started eating this way, I was having baked goods, because especially I was living in Seattle at the time, so many options for gluten-free, vegan, baked goods, and other treats. And I was just kind of in that world of eating really clean at home, but then often treating myself outside the home. And I would also bring in, occasionally we'd have ice cream, because ice cream was my thing. I would have like a coconut bliss, which is a coconut version of ice cream, but it still has a ton of sugar, even though it, I think it's agave in coconut bliss. It's still highly processed sugar, and it did not make me feel good. That agave, actually, I feel like it gives me a really big headache. But at 18 years old, when I was in high school, I was really wanting to get thin. And I started drinking Slim Fast. Has anyone done Slim Fast before? They have different flavors. I was doing the chocolate flavor. So it was basically a chocolate milkshake for breakfast and lunch sometimes as well. And then I would, after that Slim Fast, I would either have a frozen yogurt or Twix bar, maybe some warm baked cookies, something that was still kind of quenching my sugar craving. After a period of time, I lost weight doing that Slim Fast diet. But after I was like coming out of that phase, that same year, senior year in high school, I just started increasing the amount of ice cream I was having, whether it was the frozen yogurt or ice cream. And it got to the point where I was having 90% of my calories from ice cream. Literally, I would look at the label, the nutrition facts, you know, very interested in health at the time, but also think like totally not aware of what true health was. And I thought it was thin, and as long as your blood work was good, you know, those basic things. So I was paying attention to the labels, 1,600 calories in a half gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream, and I would eat that whole thing in a day, easily, just no problem. And I created a lot of disease for myself. It was causing acid reflux. It was causing a ton of acne up and down my back, all over my face, and also developing SIBO, a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, because of all of that ice cream and also French fries. And then basically my thyroid issue started around then. So it was just a lot of disease setting in at a very young age because of that addiction. But the part that I noticed and struggled with most at the time was not any of those symptoms. I wasn't aware of any of that happening. It was the mental, emotional struggle, because I had these really great highs where I was like unrealistically optimistic, so happy, so positive. But then I had these crashes, just extreme crashes, where I felt bipolar because of the quick difference in my mood. The change just happened so drastically, and it was like there's no point to live. I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I was crying all the time during these lows, and I just wanted more ice cream. I just wanted my next fix. And I'd eat to the point where I would eat the first bowl being basically a whole pint, and I would be so stuffed, but it was so painful that I would tell myself, you're already in pain, you might as well keep eating. At least then you have the joy of the flavor, and your brain is you know, being stimulated. So I'd have 3 bowls of ice cream in a row, and it was really a struggle because no one else understood what I was going through. I felt so alone. I would tell my parents, I told my friends, but I kind of joked about it to my friends, but to my mom and dad, you know, I was kind of serious, but I didn't know, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get help. The internet wasn't a big thing then, so I didn't look it up. I didn't know anyone else was struggling with this until I came to learned about True North Health Center and how food addiction is a real thing. And it was then that I started on my journey. So when I came and I was at a healthy weight, I was still highly susceptible to food addiction, processed food addiction, and I'm still highly susceptible, but now I have the tools to make it in this world where it's processed food all around us, but we can choose the real foods. We can choose the foods that nourish us and keep us out of that insanity. And I'm so grateful to be, you know, on this road of recovery now. And it's taken me a while to get here, and I've had ups and downs along the way, but I can say that I'm doing well and not having the sugar and feeling really good doing it. But I've done a lot of damage over the years from even on a whole food plant-based diet, of not listening to my body as well as I could. You know, not being fully ready to give up the sugar, you know, having mochas and matcha lattes outside the home as I was weaning off of, you know, like the ice cream and really the junk foods. I was still allowing myself a little bit of that caffeine, creamy, sweetened caffeine drinks. And then also gluten, and gluten's another allergy, and that flour is another thing that just stimulates your appetite and your dopamine and gets you in this cycle of wanting more and more and more. And that did a lot of damage as well. So it is not worth it to battle the food addiction longer than you need to. So whether you're at True North or you're at home, just really think about what you want for your life and what it's worth, how much you're willing to work to give up these things that are creating the damage and causing you pain. because if I had known how easy and simple it was to just kind of get over that hump and what it was like on the other side sooner, I would have done it sooner. But I didn't realize, you think it's so challenging, but there's just a little mental shift that could happen and you'd be on the other side, and it would be a couple weeks and you'd be totally living a new lifestyle. And then a couple months you could have significant weight loss, disease reversal, where you're a brand new person. It just feels amazing. So I hope that's helpful. Just a little bit of my story. No questions, but I was going to tell you the different things that I would recommend doing as you start on the holiday season. We're coming in, especially on the holidays or on days where you're going to be celebrating with other people. I recommend starting the day with, and we just talked about this, some of these tips are from my guest on Monday, the Soul Shine conversation I had on Monday with Dr. Chris Miller. If you're in our Delicious Living membership, then you might have joined us live for that conversation, or you have access to watch the replay in our member portal. We had a great conversation about the food addiction, the pleasure trap, and everything. And what we talked about, some of these things that are really important to get us out of this, are starting the day with meditation. So getting your mind just kind of cleared from the fast-paced society we're in, and so you can focus. Ideally this will be right when you wake up, but anytime during the day, it'd be great to start the day with that clear intention and focus. If you can take 5 minutes, 20 minutes, even a minute, if that's all you have, to breathe and just be centering yourself, ground yourself. So basically meditation, but it could just be, if you only have a couple minutes, going into the bathroom, if you're at work or something, excuse yourself, or if you're at a guest house and you only have, you couldn't do it in the morning and it's now evening, but you're overwhelmed with the food that's out and all of the drinks and everything that's happening. Take some time to just go excuse yourself and recenter. It really makes a difference. Just kind of connect while you're doing that. I would connect to your why you're eating this way, why you're choosing to live a healthier lifestyle, so that you can do the things you want to do, continue the relationships, live longer, whatever it might be. The next thing is to start your day with some greens. So whether it's a juice, a smoothie, what I like to do is green vegetables like Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes, what I had this morning. Any way that you can get your greens in early in the day, that's going to help alkaline your mouth and reduce your cravings and get all of that good fiber, but also all of the nutrients from the greens. That helps to build your neurotransmitters, build your serotonin levels, and legumes as well. If you want to add beans in with your greens, beans and greens is a dish I often have for breakfast. That's a great way to reset, not reset, but helping to reset. A great way to seed all of that good bacteria in your microbiome and help to replenish your neurotransmitters so you have a great day. And that will just kind of start building the momentum for the rest of the day, encouraging yourself to eat healthier, and also building your identity and your integrity around the way you treat yourself, right? You treat yourself really well, and you know how to nourish yourself. That will continue for longer throughout the day if you start your day with greens. And the last thing was to get out and, well, two things like overlapping, that can be overlapping. Move your body. So we are made to walk, to run, to dance. We have all of these joints so that we can literally move. But we don't do that enough. We are just sedentary. And so often, even if you're busy, you might have lots of errands, you're walking a lot, but it's not fully moving, stretching, opening your body up. That's what our bodies want. We want to like be fully engaged, active, and using all of our joints and keeping everything loose and mobile. Along with that, finding things to do that you enjoy throughout the day. We're talking about the days when you're celebrating, when you're going to friends and family, or they're coming over, or maybe you're just going out to for walking around Halloween with your kids. Whatever it might be, find ways that you can bring more joy into your day that is not centered around the food, that is not centered on the junk food. You can find great whole food, plant-based treats and dishes to make, but it's ideal if you can find other ways to enjoy yourself aside from the food. Okay. Hopefully those are just some tips as you guys are coming into the holidays. That's helpful. But if you're in our Delicious Living membership, I recommend listening to the whole interview I did with, or conversation I had with Dr. Chris Miller. So I'm not going to keep you much longer. I don't think the sweet potatoes will be fully to our liking right now, but I want to show you what they look like right now. If we have any questions, of course, I'll stay on. I'm happy to answer questions here. Then I'm going to pull out our casserole and see how it's doing. So it really depends, the 40 minutes, it depends on the size pan you have, because if you have a larger pan and it's not all stacked up as much, it won't take quite as much time to cook. And the size of your sweet potato is going to make a difference as well. And then how crunchy you'd like it and how moist you'd like it, because if the sweet potato is totally done right now, we'll check it. You could enjoy it just like this, or you could put it back in without the foil and let it dry out a little bit because it's moist right now. Some of the water evaporate and crisp it up a little bit more on the top. That's what I would recommend. And let me switch my views. You can see get a better shot of this. See that? Do this. Yum. All right, definitely not done yet. So we need to put it back in, but it sure looks tasty, huh? So I'm tempted to leave the foil off as I put it back in, just to kind of see how it does. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to put it back in without the foil, keep an eye on it, and as I do, if it starts to get too brown on top, then I can put the foil back on. But this is one of those recipes, I was making 2 new recipes every single week. And so I didn't have much time to experiment where I could test a whole bunch of different timings, in the oven and everything. So we'll see how it turns out. But definitely, I hope you guys enjoy this. Consider this recipe for any time over the next 3 months. It'll fit in with any holiday or just seasonal, a seasonal breakfast. Really, dessert or breakfast would be great. But if you're wanting something sweet, a sweet side dish for dinner time, this would work as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you love it. And we'll see you tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. for veggie loaded ramen. All right. Thanks everyone.